This conference will now be recorded.
And this meeting is being recorded. Again, this is the City of Somerville Community Preservation Committee meeting, Wednesday, December 16th, and it is 6:31 p.m. on 2020. So I'm going to do roll call of the members. Laura, Vice Chair.
Present.
Andrew Lau, did I pronounce your name?
Low. Present.
Great. Tatiana?
Present. Present.
Okay, thanks, Tatiana. Eleanor?
Present.
Heather?
Sorry, I'm here.
Christina?
Present.
And Alan?
Yes, I'm here.
And Judith is here. And Alan, our other Alan. Anasia. Thanks, Alan. Great. So everyone is here. We have 11 items on the agenda. So we'll go through the first item is a public comment period. Is there anyone in the public that has any questions or comments for the CPC committee tonight? I don't see any folks from the public here, so I will go to the next item on the agenda, which are the meeting minutes from November the 18th, 2020. We reviewed applications for this year's funding. Does anyone have any corrections or edits to the meeting minutes?
I did. On page 2, there's a reference to 28.6%, and I think that's supposed to say 28.6% increase. It's what I think it's supposed to say. I will, hang on, let me get the actual document in front of me, but I think it's supposed to look at third of the page down or so. I just wanted to clarify what that number was. I think it was an increase.
That's correct. It was an increase.
Yes, I just wanted that word there because it distracted me that it wasn't clear. And that's all I had.
Sorry, can you repeat that? We got 28.6% this year, and it was an increase from last year, which was about 17, I think. I'll check for last year, but last year was less than 20%.
Okay, so it was 28.6%, or 28.6 rather, is the number that it is this year, not an increase. I just, that sentence was not clear to me what that number represented, if that was a 28.6% increase or if it's 28.6 up from something else.
Maybe we can state it as 28.6% and then state the increase over last year.
Okay.
Yeah, like that would make it clearer. And that's all I noticed.
Okay, so we'll revise the meeting minutes to reflect Laura's comments. And do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November the 18th?
I'll move that.
Alan, in a second?
Yep.
A second.
Okay, great. I'm just going to go back quickly to the public comment period because I see there are some public that joined. Does anyone have any comments during this item number 1 public comment period from the public that's joined?
So we have 2 members, grantees that are going to join us. So we have Lisa for the Somerville Community Growing Center, and we have Amber for the Mystic River Waterworks. So they will give brief presentations.
Okay, great.
Their requests. Yeah.
Okay, great. So item number 3 is the request for the 2-year license agreement from the Somerville Community Growing Center. So I'm sorry, who is presenting?
So Lisa will be presenting. I don't know, Lisa, are you on?
She's on mute, but she's here. There she is. Hi, Lisa.
Okay. So Judith, I see the last page.
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me just get my time going here. So thank you very much. I'm joining you tonight for an update and request. Next slide, please. Just briefly,
Sorry, excuse me. Let me just do this. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
okay, that works. Just briefly, just to acknowledge that the land of the Growing Center and the city of Somerville is on land that was original inhabitants for the Massachusetts tribe. Thank you. Next slide. So 2020, the year of COVID in review. I'll get into more detail later, but things were not as usual and as expected, which impacted the ability to meet, but actually in some cases exceed expectations. So there was one large maple boil event the first weekend in March with over 400 visitors, and that was kind of it for events. The shutdown meant that all regular activities were ended. There were no event permits available from the city through this year, so that meant what it meant. We quickly pivoted and developed health and safety plans, coordinated through COVID calendars, worked with partners like through our Children in Nature program to deliver materials to families at home. In June, with approval of health and safety plan and change in regulations, we were able to add open hours and start planning for youth programs. We also did virtual cultural programs, but primarily we partnered with out-of-school time providers this year, the Y, Somerville Media Center, Parts and Crafts, and daycare providers like Pooh and Friends and remotely with Head Start. And we were able to offer open hours 3 times a week, and they are continuing through the winter with the revised health and safety plan. So next slide, please. And this is just a list of numbers that says, amazingly, we had 98 unique volunteers. I think the important numbers for this group are there were almost 800 visitors to open hours, and these numbers are a couple weeks old. 628 children and youth served in programs, and the board managed to raise almost $15,000 remotely. So next slide, please. How this connects to our anticipated goals that we had discussed with CPC for 2020, where the expectation was to have 500 plus hours of free programming. This was obviously not totally feasible, but we did manage to pull off about 207 hours. This is the one maple boil, 99 hours of free programming specifically with the Y, and then another 102 were other youth programs. In terms of posted hours for open time, we exceeded this. We've reached 122 hours over the hope for 100, which is amazing and a testament to volunteers, particularly since the health and safety plan does require extra time and effort. And then it was impossible to host the 4,000 attendees, but there were over 400 for the maple boil and over 1,400 guests between open hours and youth programs. Next slide, please. In terms of the CPA funding and the updates on that, we were able, once we got everyone with their health and safety plans, to install the metal railings throughout the site by Somerville High Grad. And with the help of Mass Art and their design build program, we were able to create desired new storage and replace the pergola with a new expanded structure. The new compost unit, the final physical piece, is installed December 26th. And there is a new sign for the fence on order in 4 languages that is being created by Ready to Run. We're supposed to get it and have it be installed by the end of December. And the funds from the CPA have been expended. So as soon as those last 2 things are done, we'll be sending a report to Judith. So just really quickly, we'll zip through. There's some images from the Maple Project. Next slide. The garden team and watering angels, which allowed the central photo of produce and flowers, which went to the St. Patrick's Shelter and or Early Head Start to happen. Next slide, please. The Nature Garden Play School, kids having an opportunity to be outside, get some exercise, be green, and really just have the restorative virtues of nature and to play. Next slide, please. Program offerings, including a song created for us called Going to the Growing Center, which is online, and a lot of book readings. Next slide, please. And then just some images of mass art creating this pergola. I guess they don't have a final picture, which is too bad, because it is a beautiful structure. Next slide, please. So the request is it possible for the city license with the Friends of the Community Growing Center to manage the center to be once again extended beyond a 1-year duration? We would anticipate continuing to provide updates to the CPC on activity at the renovated space over the next few years for continued shared learning about how does this investment make a difference in our community. And this allows the Friends to focus on doing the work and raising the funds. It actually helps with funders understanding that you do have use of the space approved for more than 1 year, to ensure that the Growing Center can continue to serve a key role in equitable access to outdoor spaces in Somerville for all residents. Any questions? And while you're thinking, thank you to the CPC for your ongoing support and encouragement of the Growing Center, particularly during this unusual year.
So just, Lisa, so that I understand, so is it every 2 years you have to request the extension of the license, or?
It is varied. The license came about, it started around the same time as the funding from CPA, but it was something that had been in sort of development for some time. So the first year was a year, and then staff had requested or suggested that it could be extended to at least 2 years. And so that had happened, but there was some request of the CPC to only have it be for 1 year. They wanted us to come back and be able to report on the outcomes. It almost felt like people were afraid we wouldn't continue to be reporting to someone. I would suggest that we continue to have a working relationship, at least in terms of sharing learnings. But the license is essentially a legal document between the city and the Friends of the Community Growing Center, and would be in existence whether they're, regardless of engagement with CPA.
So it's not the CPC that issues the license, right? It's the city, it's somebody at City Hall.
License. I think that, however, because of the work that was going on, and that the renovation so closely tied to the CPA funding, that there was a valid interest in having those intersected. What I'm trying to make clear is we're pretty complete with that project. The goal was by the end of this year. We're going to be very close. If we don't get a second snowstorm, we should make it. So technically, that part of the relationship should be complete.
Yeah, so Lisa, I just wanted to add that so the city legal team reviews also this request and has always recommended 1 year. But like Lisa said, because the funding is tied to the CPA, the CPC also has requested for certain conditions to be met, and some of which she has reported on, like numbers of the visitors that go there. And so the CPC could also recommend, if that's okay, with conditions that, provide annual report or, whatever conditions that the CPC would like to make on the request. But ultimately, the city team always advises on the number of years for the license extension.
I like that. I mean, essentially, you can advocate on our behalf and set some conditions. So
I mean, I think the annual report is a great idea, so that, we're everyone is up to speed on the general public that attends and the programs that you have and how you're, creating the space for the residents and the children. So I think that's a great idea to keep the communication with the CPC and having an annual report, like a presentation of PowerPoint. That's really beneficial to us. Does anybody else have any comments, or does anybody have an issue with just requesting approving a 2-year license agreement, and then we could have the condition on annual reporting from the Solar
Yeah.
Community Learning Center?
I would second what Jane said, that the presentation is really helpful. It's really sweet to get an update and hear what grantees are doing and see the outcomes and impacts in our community, right? Because that's why we're here. So yeah, I would second that.
Yeah, so I think what the CPC could do is recommend, this, not really approve, like vote on it, but recommend like a 2-year license to the, and refer this to the city lawyer for further advice.
Okay. So does someone want to make a motion to recommend the 2-year license agreement for the Solar Community Growing Center?
Can I first ask a clarification question? Just because
Sure.
I'm familiar with this whole situation and how it works. So what I'm gathering from this discussion is that CPC does not grant this license. It's more, our involvement is more in that we have granted money and there's been this ongoing projects that using that money, which are almost done. So this is actually more of a sort of a courtesy request to kind of loop us in on the renewal of this license and to ask for our support in extending, to ask for our support in lobbying for a longer term. Is that mostly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then in terms of asking for things like reporting and stuff, that's not that, I guess that's tied to this year's fiscal. I mean, like if there wasn't any CPA monies involved, how, what are we sort of doing with that part of it in terms of putting conditions on the lease?
Yeah, and I think those are very good questions for the city attorney, because like Lisa has said, I think they've expanded the CPA funding, and I don't know whether they have future plans of asking for more CPA funding, but I think the whole idea was for her to really report on the conditions that were earlier set by the CPC, to say, look, we've been able to achieve this, even though there's been challenges. And even as we, as the CPC recommends this to the city attorney is aware that the CPC is satisfied with the conditions that have been set. I think one of the things that the city attorney has been concerned about is the sign, which Lisa has at least said it's in its final stages, and she's working with the Department of Public Space and Urban Forestry. I think I have also reviewed the language of the sign. So it's almost complete. But because initially there were conditions that were set by the CPC, she had to come back and report on the conditions.
So the growing center has met all the conditions under the previous grant. So the report is just a summary of that grant agreement, but then there's another request to recommend, to give our blessing to the city's legal department for a 2-year extension. And typically it's a request for 1 year. So we're saying that we would support a 2-year. Is that what
We had a 2-year in the past.
okay.
The CPC requested to shorten it to 1 year.
And what is this license actually for? What does it allow the friends to do? And what happens if you don't get it?
If we don't get any license, then we walk away. There's no support for the growing center at all.
So
Right,
is
and-
it a license to
So the
maintain?
Friends essentially manage, fundraise, and maintain the city space. And the license is just a formal agreement of that relationship.
I see. So the community growing center is on city property?
It is city property.
Okay, I didn't
and
know
that's
that.
what requires the license. Oh, no, sorry, Christina. It is not typical. There have been a few other arrangements like this in the city, but they've tended to be like state land or other land. This is very specifically city land.
Okay.
It's essentially a public-private partnership.
Great. Thank you for clarifying. Well, I agree that I would be for recommending the 2-year. I don't think we can, of course, require the community growing center to continue reporting to us, but we can ask as a courtesy that they check in and report.
Yeah, I think for purposes of, how we'll document this in the minutes and how we should proceed, we're basically asking for the CPC's, or the Growing Center is asking for the CPC's endorsement. And as part of that endorsement, you can encourage a continued annual reporting.
So that
Okay.
sounds like a motion.
Yes.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm looking at the microphones. Christina, you said aye, right? Yes, okay.
Sorry, who moved the motion?
So,
Alan.
that's right. Alan.
So Alan can't move the motion.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
I was gonna say actually.
Laura, do you want to make the motion?
Yes. So I'll make the motion that the CPC endorse this request for a 2-year license and encourage the Growing Center to give an annual report on their impacts and activities as part of that, but not require it, just encourage.
And Christina second. Oh, Heather seconded the motion, right?
Yeah.
Heather, great. All right, thank you so much, Lisa. Keep up the good work.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Yeah, so Jen, I wanted to request if Amber is on, whether to also give her presentation. Is she online?
I don't see
Okay.
her, no. So is that the open, oh, is that the Mystic Watershed?
Yes.
Presentation? Oh, yeah, okay, so I don't think she's on yet.
Okay.
So the next item on the agenda is the Open Space Acquisition and Improvement Stabilization Fund. So Judith, are you going to report on that?
Yes, so we received advice from the city attorney who advised us not to put extra money into the open space acquisition in absence of a request. So you remember it was, when we're discussing, the CPC recommended to fund the 50,000 that was requested for, but also requested that, we consult with the city attorney on whether more funds can be put in the acquisition fund. But she advised that we cannot do that without a request. We also went ahead to discuss the possibility of an emergency request in the absence of a regular request, and she also advised against that unless it was really an emergency, so that we, to avoid future precedents of requests that are out of the cycle that may not be emergency. But she said, we could encourage them in future to apply for whatever funding they need, and then the CPC can decide whether to fund the full amount or fund whatever is available. So in this case, if they had requested for 100,000, then the CPC could have funded the whole 100,000, but they requested for 50. And so we can't go beyond that. And Alan, I think, can add.
Yeah, that and in regards to the emergency request, yeah, in addition that, it doesn't make sense to set that precedent here. There's also no imminent acquisition parcel targets right now. So it really wouldn't make much sense to just, other than to just, pad the acquisition fund.
So we're going to keep it at the request is 50,000, and that's the amount that we're going to keep it at. Okay. And then the other item was the Broadway house, where they had an initial request, I think for 125, but then when we said we had a shortfall of funds this year with a lot of applications, they went back and they split it into 2 phases. So if the funding was for 1 year and then the second year, the total was 146,000. But since there was funds available for the whole year, I think what was determined that the original request was going to be recommended, not the 146, because that was going to be if they had to do it in 2 years. But the CPC said at the last meeting they could fund at the 125. So I think we asked for clarification on that. So that's what the city has come back with, saying that you can fund the original request only.
Yeah, so what we require from the committee is to reconsider the last vote, because the last vote was for 146,282, and vote on to consider the 125,000 that was originally requested.
So we'll take a vote. Is there a motion to accept the original request of 125?
I'll
I
move
move to accept the original Broadway house request of 125.
And
And I'll
Alan,
second that.
okay, so Alan seconded
Sorry,
that.
excuse me, sorry, can you also do that with the funding?
With open space?
Yeah, like say, you approve that with all the funding recommendations.
Okay, so let's finish this one. So all in favor, recuse myself, all in favor of the original request of 125?
Aye.
Laura?
Yes.
Tatiana? Okay, Eleanor?
Aye. Yes.
Okay. I guess I'll
Aye.
call his name so it makes it easier. Sorry. Tatiana?
Yes, aye. Sorry.
Christina?
yes.
Andrew?
Aye.
Heather? Aye. Alan?
Yes.
Aye. Okay, great. And does someone want to make a motion to approve the open space acquisition funding of 50,000 for that was the original request?
No, that was already voted on. I wanted the vote to also consider the funding recommendations for the Broadway, because what you earlier approved was for the 146. So I wanted just to change that language, put the new figures. So if we can go back, so the new figures, sorry Heather for taking you back, but the new figures would be the 76,670 from historic and the 48 from budgeted reserve, plus the funding recommendations.
Okay, so I'll just amend that. We'll just amend that motion to add the budgeted amount of the 76,670 from historic preservation and 48,330 from the budgeted reserve,
Plus the funding recommendations.
plus the funding recommendation of 125.
The funding recommendations are here.
And they are execution and recording of historic preservation restriction, commencement of the project, and as appropriate, the Broadway House agrees to post a sign stating that the project was funded through the Somerville CPC, and the CPA funds will only go towards the eligible costs.
Yes.
So is it necessary to do another vote on that, or just amend that previous?
We should probably take a quick roll call.
Okay, so all in favor? Laura? Aye. Tatiana?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Heather? Aye. Aye, she said aye. Alan?
Aye.
Great. All right. Apologize for that confusion. So Amber is here. So the next item on the agenda is Mystic River Watershed Association grant extension. And
Hello.
hi, Amber, how are you? I think Judith said you were gonna give us a brief discussion.
Yeah, I just put together 3 really quick slides just to try to get all the context and history out, and I'll try to keep it brief. Okay, so first of all, my name is Amber Christofferson. I'm the Greenways Director at the Mystic River Watershed Association, and I think the CPC has almost entirely turned over since I was first submitting forward our proposal, so it's nice to meet you all. And I put together this timeline because I think I just want to go through what's happened with the project in order to explain where we're going and why we're asking for an extension. So the first CPA grant we got this fiscal year 2017 was where we created a community-driven vision plan for Blessing of the Bay Park. And the items at the top explain the main milestones and work that we've taken on, and the boxes below kind of explain some other context that's been happening throughout the project. So the first thing is, after the vision plan was done, the most important part that was identified by the community as an element to implement was the shared use path along Shore Drive. So we applied for a Mass Trails grant, and that set off a whole series of involvements by DCR, who is the landowner of the park. Of course, between our 2017 and 2018 grant, there's new DCR leadership, so they kind of had to reevaluate being involved in the project. Luckily, they agreed to, but it just caused some delays. Then we realized that the city of Somerville actually owns the shared use path along the park, not DCR. So that was a pretty big realization, and DCR realized they couldn't reconstruct the entire path because they didn't own it. And there was a lot of back and forth about transferring ownership. Everyone decided to leave it. So meanwhile, DCR ended up with about $200,000 of funding to do some early park improvements. So we ended up doing it, and I have a diagram on the next slide that I'll explain, but there were improvements that were done and just finished last month. The other context piece that came out in 2020 is that technically the shared use path is designated as a sidewalk, which can't utilize CPA funding, even though it is, for all intents and purposes, a path in a park. There are some technicalities around that. So we've had a lot of regrouping that we've done over the years. So that's kind of where we are and why we're asking for an extension from May 2021 to May 2022. So if you go to the next slide real quick. So this is the summary. You can see the dotted red line. That's the shared use path that's owned by the city, and DCR owns what we're calling the bookends, which are the pieces of the path that go through the park. So what DCR decided to do with their own funding, the Mass Trails funding, and an earmark, a legislative earmark, was to do the path reconstruction for the ends of the park. And they planted about 30 trees. They removed a bunch of benches that were in disrepair, put in some new benches, and all of that was done as of November of this year. So we were also we really wanted to make sure our project didn't get in the way of what DCR was doing, and we weren't putting funds ahead of knowing what was going to happen. So the last slide leaves us at where we are today. And going back to the original plan that was created in 2017, or 2018 is when it finished, and that was fiscal year 17 CPA funding. So again, the most important priority identified in this plan was the shared use path expansion. For all the reasons outlined, we were only able to restore some of the paths, and we're going to have to continue to work with the city of Somerville on finding a long-term solution through another funding source to expand that path. I was actually out on site today, and I was heartened to see that there has been a realignment of Shore Drive that The center line was moved, the travel lanes were narrowed, and there's bike lanes put in, which was a first step phasing that we thought would help set the stage for a future long-term expansion of the shared use path that will provide a wider path and an area with street trees and green infrastructure. But, you know, funding's an issue, and that's something that I've been in touch with Brad Rawson about hopefully doing in the future. So in the meantime, we have the other funding that we still have from our fiscal year 18 CPA. And there's a number of park improvements that DCR was not able to build in the phase that they did this year. Some additional benches and picnic tables, native plantings. While they did plant 30 trees, there's nothing really in the park except lawn and trees. So it'd be nice to have some native plantings. And we also had talked about doing some really simple get down areas, we were calling them, along the river so that people can get to the river in specific areas along the park and prevent erosion. So our plan is, we're in touch with DCR. We've told them we have this funding. We want to help contribute to more park improvements, working towards this vision plan. So what we would have to do is an MOU with DCR so that we could do the implementations on the land they own. They also have an order of conditions with the Conservation Commission. I need to see how long that, what that timeline covers, and if we could be part of that order of conditions or not, because it's similar kind of work. But that's where we are. And, you know, I will say working with DCR has been a challenge at times, but, you know, this is one of the 3 waterfront parks in Somerville. You know, one is Baxter Park, was already redone. Draw 7 is in the process of being redesigned. So we don't want to give up on this park. I think it's really important, especially in light of the boathouse being there. And I know the boathouse is another side discussion that's been happening around what might be the future of the boathouse. But that's outside of this CPA process. But, you know, we have been really invested in this park. We've followed the twisting, turning nature of it, and that's where we are. So I just thought it might be helpful for everyone to hear a little bit about what the last couple of years have been. And then, you know, you throw in COVID and it's a little bit more of a delay as well. So I don't know, too much information quickly.
I have a couple of questions. So, so the CPA grant that you received was back in 2018?
Yep.
And how much was that for?
That was for $155,000, and then we had $20,000 of private foundation funding.
Okay. So right now you're looking to put that $155,000 into other park projects through an MOU with DCR, so it will be in the bookended areas and not in the
it'll be in the main part of the park, just not the shared use path. So the bookends just refers to the places where the shared use path is within DCR ownership. But the whole main part of the park is fair game, you know, within the context of how much funding and what we can do under the order of conditions. So, you know, we want to keep the improvements fairly simple. You know, nothing like, you know, in this vision plan, there's a dock, and obviously, like, we're not going to pay for a dock with the amount of funding that we have. So we just have to look at what DCR did in this phase of improvements in 2020 and what can complement those to work towards the vision plan.
And the order of conditions are from conservation?
Yeah.
So you have all your permits in place to do improvements?
Right. And that's what I was saying, that we need to like check to make sure like our work could be covered under that order of conditions. So the beginning of 2021, we're going to tackle some of these issues with the MOU and Conservation Commission to figure out exactly what we need to do. You know, there is like a very unlikely, but you know, there's a possibility that DCR is like, you can't do it, we can't do it in the order of conditions, and maybe we have to give the funding back. We hate to abandon some of the improvements, but there's some element of things out of our control with DCR.
Okay.
And just to be clear, the project that went before the Conservation Commission, that was separate from the proposed work you were going to do with the CPA funds?
Yeah, well, what DCR did is they did a landscape plan incorporating some elements of this vision plan. Like this vision plan is probably like a $3 million park revitalization, and they had 200,000. So it was like scaling down some of the ideas from this. And so anything that we would propose would be like similar to some of the items, but that's where I have to get kind of, we have to sharpen our pencils on whether or not we do have to go back to Concom, which we might have to, but I think trying to have this done by 2022 still seems feasible with where we are today.
So I'm sorry, Amber, can you say how much that you've spent to date on that grant?
Yeah, well, so far the way that the CPA grants, we have the 40% of the total amount that was prepaid, and then all the next phases are only cost reimbursable once you've spent money, which we haven't. So we've only spent a small amount on a survey and some of my time. And we haven't officially billed that because it's against that original 69,000. So we haven't gone above that.
Okay.
And so you're asking for the 12-month extension, and given what you have, the steps you've lined up already, that feels doable?
Yeah, and again, like, in the next 4 months, we'll know, like, if it's just DCR is just gonna say no. We have a good relationship with DCR. We've been continuing to work with them, but they're just a little bit unpredictable sometimes.
Okay, got it.
All right.
I'm sorry, I have another question. So right now, the scope of how you'll use those funds is undetermined because you have to get through a number of planning phases first, both with conservation and with DCR. So you can't tell us tonight how that balance of that money would be applied.
Yeah.
So I guess I have no problems with the extension, but I do sort of feel like I'd like to know how the monies will be spent, in particular, that it won't all go towards, permitting or staff time or something, that it's actually going into physical improvements.
Hardscape.
Yeah, and that's really our priority for this, particularly as DCR did some improvements, but we feel like it really they weren't totally adequate. So we want to make sure that there would be tangible elements built. So yeah, we can certainly keep you in the loop, but I think it is a sequencing of having that negotiation with DCR and coming up with a plan that we both agree on, and then like addressing the Conservation Commission, and I'm happy to keep this group in the loop as well. Once there's something that's more concrete of like a bench here, here's some plants, those types of things.
So are there any other questions? Do we want to make a motion with conditions on getting information on what the funds are going to be spent on?
Yeah, so I had discussed with Amber the 12-month extension, because from my experience, sometimes, because of these unforeseen circumstances, the 12 months might be a short time, and then it takes another, time to come back to the committee. I'm not sure if we can come back and ask for another 12 months extension. So I don't know whether you're confident, Amber, that the 12 months is enough, because the CPC could extend for 24 months. So you don't have to, come back in case of unforeseen circumstances like we had this COVID.
Yeah, I still feel pretty confident that the 12-month extension is good, because we've already been having these conversations with DCR, and we're going to just kind of go with the existing leadership now and say, you're going in on this with us or you're not, and coming up with a plan. So I agree, things always take longer than you think, but the fact that we've been having these conversations for like 18 months gives us at least a little bit of we're not starting from scratch.
Okay. So then if there are no other questions, does someone want to make a motion to grant a a 12-month extension to the Mystic River Watershed Association with giving us information when more is known from the Concom and DCR on what the funds are going to be spent towards.
Sure, I can make that motion to, yeah, make a motion to grant the request for the 12 months extension until May 22. With the condition that we get updates as progress is made and DCR approves stuff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll take a roll call. All in favor? Eleanor?
Yes.
Great. Amelia, you're here. Thank you.
I'm going to abstain because I came in during this conversation.
Okay. Alan?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Andrew, you made the motion. Christina?
Aye.
Tatiana?
Aye.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Amber, and good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I'll keep you in the loop for sure.
Great.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. The next item on the agenda is the November CPA semi-annual report. And Judith is going to present it to us.
Yeah, so I want to start by apologizing for the date. So Alan Bingham did make a correction. So this report is for November 2020, and it's a semi-annual report for FY21. So the first 3 pages give a summary of spending in the 3 categories. And for the affordable housing, so far, the CPC has supported 27 projects. And of the 27 projects, 9 have been completed, and 82% of the funding has been spent. For the historic resources, the CPC has supported 23 projects, and of these, 11 projects have been completed, and 81% of the funding has been spent. For the open space category, the CPC has supported 29 projects, and of these projects, 13 have been completed, and 70% of the funds have been spent. So I'm quickly running through because I assume that you had the opportunity to read the report. So the next page shows the summary of spending, and it shows the totals awarded with bonding and the totals awarded without bonding. And for the bonding, they include a 2.5 million bond for the historic rehabilitation of West Branch Library, which was approved in FY16, and a 6 million bond for affordable housing acquisition through the 100 Homes project, which was awarded in FY18. And the charts show the allocation percentages, excluding the administration. So we had some achievements this year. So like you're all aware, the CPC awarded 2 emergency. We received 2 emergency proposals and awarded 1 for the Central Hill Park Playground, and also the 8 applications that were recently been awarded funding, apart from the Elizabeth Peabody. We also received 3 applications for the FY21 CPC public seat, which was really low compared to the applications we previously received. And unfortunately, 1 member withdrew, so we had only 2 applicants, and the city decided to extend the deadline for application to early next year, about January the 8th. I will share with the CPC the advert so you can share with colleagues and community members who may be eligible for the position. For the Mystic Waterworks, like earlier reported, received the 2020 Mayor Thomas Manino Legacy Award. And Eleanor is here. She will also give more information about the plans that the Housing Trust Fund has for more affordable housing units, I think for the elderly. The city held a ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate the reopening of Prospect Hill Park, and Louisa had shared this information. There's a YouTube video that you can watch, and Laura and Dick, the former CPC member, represented the CPC. We also had, the first summer youth who helped us with the development of the first CPA program documentary, which is also available online. We successfully applied for the Tufts Urban and Environmental Policy Planning Summer Field Project for the second CPA evaluation, and thanks to the CPC and Laura, and we received 5 master students that we'll be working with beginning next year. And we also had the CPC chair, Jane and Laura, participate in the Growing Center and Mass Health at CPA project collaboration celebration. And those are the pictures of some of the projects and the ribbon cutting. Page 7 to 9 shows the summary of the project indicators for the various projects, and pages 9 to 15 shows the completed projects, and pages from 15 to 32 shows the ongoing projects. So if you have any questions, we are available to answer them. Thank you. Or suggestions on the reports. Normally these reports, even the format is approved by the CPC, and initially we were debating on whether to always include details of the completed projects, because it's kind of been recycled, but we felt it was important because for this case, we have new members on the CPC that may not have this information. But moving forward, I think we will again come back to the CPC and see whether we need to revise the format so that they are shorter projects that can be read by everyone. So thank you, Chair. That's all.
Thanks, Judith. Does anybody have any questions on the report?
This is probably a really basic question I should know the answer to, but on page 5, where you have those pie charts, the allocations FY15 to 20, you start with FY15 because that's the first time ever, right? That's the first year that money was given?
Yes, yes.
So this is like our history, all our history. Okay.
Yeah. This is a history.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I just have one comment on page 9 that we were just looking at. There's a spelling of Creole, which is K-R-E-Y-O-L. The actual spelling of Creole, which is a local interpretation of a language, is C-R-E-O-L-E.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the Prospect Hill Tower in the second last sentence. Creole is coming too.
For Haitian, yeah.
So that's just a spelling error. C-R-E-O-L-E.
Thank you. So thanks for the presentation. Do we want to take a vote on approval of this, the semi-annual report?
Yes, with amendments.
And what are the amendments?
The corrections,
with the correction on the, okay, well, the typo. So does someone want to make a motion to approve the CPA semi-annual report with the correction noted by Alan?
Well, I'll move that.
All right, Alan, and is there a second?
Second.
Laura seconds, and all in favor, Eleanor?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Tatiana,
Aye.
and Amelia.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, sorry, Jen. I also wanted to mention that normally we also have the semi-annual report or the November report for the Affordable Housing Trust, like I reported the last time. So Heidi left, and the city is in the process of recruiting replacement. So this year we don't have a report from the Affordable Housing Trust, but hopefully we'll have it for the annual report. I also wanted to kindly request that you give Elinor an opportunity to report on the plans that they have for additional affordable housing.
I'm sorry. So Judith, you said that Hattie left, so the Affordable Housing Trust didn't include their report in this. But what was the other item that you said? I'm sorry, Eleanor?
Yeah, they didn't. We don't have a report from them for the CPC to adopt. Hopefully, we'll have it next. I mean, we'll have the annual report in June. But Elinor had some information on some affordable housing units that are in plan that she wanted to share with the CPC.
Oh, great.
Okay,
Eleanor?
thank you, Judith. Thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know that the first project of the waterworks, which they call the Mystic Pump House, is completed. And they went to work there and resulted in 25 units of affordable housing. At the same time, restoring its historical significance. For this, we won an award, and we were very proud of it. Now we are working on the Waterworks 2, which is the garage building itself. When it's completed, we'll have 21 more units. Our executive director, Joe Macaluso, is working with the zoning board. In fact, they were supposed to have a meeting, I think, this evening, but I think it was canceled due to the weather, and there was 2 or 3 people that were ill. When I get further information on it, I'd like to put it out to the committee. As you know, we love to work with the CPC, and the SHA frequently coincides with the goal of the CPC. Like I said, we always want to make affordable housing. At the same time, we want to make sure that the property itself is always restored to its historical significance. And that's just an example of our mission alignment. We like to do this, and hope in the future we will continue.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
We're very proud of the award we won, and we have the same people on board. So this, once we get a few more things lined up, should go very smoothly. And as you know, the elderly and disabled, they're prime examples of our mission alignment. People are living longer and really have nowhere to go, and we really have a long list of people waiting to get into our housing authority, and this is going to help.
Eleanor, are the units one and 2 bedroom units, or are they all 1 bedroom?
I think they're all going to be 1 units as far as I know.
Okay.
They had a couple of different plans they were going to present to the zoning board, but basically I think they're 1 units.
Great. I run by it a couple of times a week. The first building is beautifully restored, so it's going to be nice to see the second.
Yes, and like I said, 21 more new units is wonderful, and I'm sure there'll be applications for people to fill when things get underway.
I'm sure there'll be a long list.
Yes, there was a long list for the first 25 units. And people that are there loved it. They said it's done beautifully, but the historical end of it was significant because they kept everything the way it should be. And we beat out an awful lot of people for that award. So the Housing Authority is very proud of it.
Great. Well, I think I speak for all the CPC in congratulating you and the staff for pulling that off and getting the award. That's amazing.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
We had a lot of support in our first effort from the CPC funding and from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And we were able to create the 25 affordable housing units. And we're proud of the fact that you people were also involved in it. The Affordable Housing Trust, you know, all came together, and it was a very good job from everyone.
That's great. Thank you so much for giving us the update.
Thank you. When I get more updates, dear, I will certainly share them with you.
Yeah, that's really helpful, especially, you know, with Heidi not, the city's looking for the replacement. So I think the CPC, you know, housing is a big piece for us, and we don't really always get that information. And I think until they find a replacement for Heidi, that would be helpful if you could fill us in. Appreciate it.
Yes, I will do that, surely.
The CPC general member search update. Judith, I think you just mentioned that there were 3 applicants and unfortunately one pulled out the week before the interviews. So the city is going to do a search again and have the applications submitted or due in January.
Yes, correct.
I just wanted to say I had a person I was that was encouraged to apply. I know her from my experience in affordable housing. She's a development consultant for a group called To Life. It's a nonprofit developer that develops housing. I think they're located in Newton, but then she deferred to somebody else who ended up backing out. So, but she is going to submit her resume again this next round. So her name is Rose White. She's a Somerville resident of 20 years and very, very sharp in affordable housing. So I won't be on the committee at that time, but I just want to let you know that, you know, she's a great candidate when you look at that resume.
Yeah, so thank you. I also wanted to mention, you know, again, not very good news. Amelia is leaving us. She just let me know about a week ago, and I wanted her before you go to the general public member election, in case anyone wanted to nominate her, that she's not available, and to give her the opportunity to, you know, say a few words to the CPC and probably inform the CPC why she's leaving.
Yeah, thank you so much, Judith. And I am sorry to have to share this news with you all, but this is sort of precipitated by 2 things. One, just my work often has night meetings, and I have a new client I'll be working with that has a standing Wednesday night meeting. So for the purposes of having good attendance and representation from the planning board, we're going to get someone new to come represent the planning board as the CPC rep. And also this summer, in the midst of all of the COVID madness, we had 3 new members join the planning board, actually. So we have a lot of new faces, and wanted to give one of them the opportunity to sort of get the CPC offers a really unique perspective into sort of other things that are going on in Somerville, and I think it added a lot of value to my perspective as a member of the planning board also to serve with you on this committee. And I hope that one of my colleagues on the planning board who's new to this sort of civic role will benefit from it in the same way. So we should have someone new in January. I will communicate with Judith about that when that's decided, but in the meantime, thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure working with you, and such a great group. So thank you. And
Thanks,
thank you.
Amelia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amelia.
So, Judith, do you want to just run down the process for the election?
Yes.
So I am going to be stepping down, and the committee will elect a new chair and a vice chair.
Yeah, so it's been unfortunate because of the COVID situation, but normally when members are leaving the committee, we've been sharing a meal or a drink at these meetings, but unfortunately we are not able to do this year for the members that are leaving and those that left. So, but being a chair, Jane, I think really I would like to thank you so much for the support that you have given me as a manager, but also for the leadership and that you've given the CPC and the uniqueness of running these meetings, especially during this time. So every year in December, so there are elections for office members, specifically the chair and vice chair. Previously, the chair has requested to continue her role or his role because they are available, but in this case, Jane is not seeking a second term, and so she's not seeking another term as chair. So what normally happens, the CPC will elect the chair, or can do it through nomination, self-nomination, or someone can nominate another person to be. Then after that, the CPC elects the vice chair. I shared with you some of the roles of the CPC and the laws. If you have any questions and you're interested in any of these positions, please feel free to ask these questions. And I would also kindly request Jane and Dora to share their experience as chair and vice chair for the members that may not be aware of the roles of the two offices. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judith. I'm really sad to leave. It's been a great experience. I was on the CPC committee for 2 years, and then when the first round of members left after the second term, they nominated me. So I've only been the president for a year, but I think one of the important things is just being aware of what's on the agenda prior to the meeting, and being familiar with all of the items, and really facilitating as best everyone can on a Zoom call, just the meeting as it goes through all the agenda items. The chair also gets involved in other activities if there's events, or Laura and I participated in the Growing Center, where they got the grant with the Mass College of Art, and we were on a Zoom call. So there'll be events. Everything now is virtual, but at one point we will go back to the new normal, and hopefully there'll be celebrations outside of the event that we would speak at and talk about the contribution the CPC has made to that specific project. So I think that's really rewarding for us in our role to do. And then just advise, work with Alan and Judith on issues that arise as you develop the agenda, and just applications that come in, or questions, or applicants that have questions. And Judith is, pretty adept at answering those, but just getting more information. So trying to be a little bit more informed to present at the meeting when we have it once a month. And I think, and I would also, I know Laura's been the chair for not as about the same time as me, actually the same time as me, and she's also new, but I think she's done a great job, and I would actually nominate her to take my place as a chair. But maybe Laura, you can talk a little bit about your role and
Vice chair.
Vice
Sure.
chair. Vice
Yeah,
Chair.
Vice Chair. A similar task to what Jane mentioned, reviewing the agendas prior to the meetings, commenting, maybe adding if it's something missing. I see the role as also like just serving as a support both to the chair in terms of like timekeeping at meetings, logistical stuff, as well as to Judith and to some extent Alan, just sounding board. Like I think the whole committee serves as a sounding board really, but as vice chair, there's like more granular stuff to do, like the agenda review and attending the events. You know, the chair and the vice chair are kind of first in line. Chair is probably first, vice chair is probably backup to get out there and put on the face for the CP, on behalf of the CPC at those events. Yeah, those are the main things, I'd say.
So I think we can think about who we wanted to nominate. And as I said earlier, I would like it as sort of my parting last act to nominate Laura for the chair, if she is interested in stepping up from the vice chair position. And then somebody would nominate a vice chair.
At that point. I would accept, if there's no other interest, I would accept. And I would suggest, I would nominate Heather as vice chair if she's interested.
I'd be delighted. I would accept.
Great. Do we, Judith, should we take a vote on the nominations? Can I recommend a vote on the nominations, or does that have to be staff?
I think we should do one by one.
Okay. So is there a motion to accept Laura as the new chair of the Somerville Community Preservation Committee?
So moved.
Is that Tatiana made the motion?
Sorry, that was
Oh,
Amelia.
Amelia. Amelia. Is there a second?
This is Heather, and I second it.
Okay. All in favor? Eleanor?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Tatiana?
Aye.
Great. And is there a vote to nominate Heather as vice chair of the CPC, Somerville Community Preservation
I
Committee?
would make that motion. How about, since I nominated her, I'll make the motion that we vote on that. Accepting
All
Heather as
second.
vice chair.
And Christina second. Great. All in favor? Eleanor?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Tatiana?
She's muted.
Tatiana?
Yes, sorry, aye.
And Amelia?
Aye.
Excellent. Well, now I feel like I'm leaving everyone in good hands. Great. Excellent. So is there any other business that needs to be discussed? Does anybody have?
Just for information, so on the 28th December, there will be a ribbon cutting for the Allen Street project. So the chair or the vice chair will represent the CPC and give a few remarks. So it will not be virtual, it will be in person, and only the city has invited only 10 people and they've given just one slot to the CPC.
Well, I'm actually on vacation that week. I'll be out of town. I mean, it's not really a vacation, but I'm out of town between Christmas and New Year's, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Laura or Heather can represent if they're available. So it's from 2 to 2:30.
What day of the week is that?
The
Monday.
28th December.
Okay, right, Monday. Okay. And it's at City Hall, you said?
No, at the site.
At the Allen Street.
And it's a lovely, I've been watching it under construction. It looks pretty amazing. All right, so if there's no other new business, we'll adjourn this meeting. The next meeting is Wednesday, January 27th at 6:30, and Laura and Heather will be chair and co-chair. And I wish everyone a happy holiday and be safe. And I'm sure I'll see you around.
Hope so. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
I think
Thank
we
you
should
all.
take
Take
a
care.
moment to thank Jane for
Be
all
well,
of her
everybody.
work.
Be
Thank you.
well.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Happy
Meeting
holidays.
is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jane. You've been great.
Thanks so much.
Judith, can you